He just smashed it. I watched him do it. That's awesome. Hey there guys, it's Ted from 10 Leggings Fishing Life, here to talk to you about my adventures in glide baiting. Specifically, which bait I've come to love, which is the Sneaky Pete by G-Ratt Baits out there in California. I got my real intro to glide baiting when I went to California last year, and my good friend Justin booked us a trip with none other than Josh Parrish, who even Nick Dane, Fortnum Fisherman, went to for a glide bait lesson. I'm going to cut to what he told us right here. I mean, this was at the beginning of the day. We were still trying to figure out what the fish were doing that day. Even though he gave us instruction in glide baiting, we didn't end up doing it that much. I did get one really good hit and a bunch of followers. Unfortunately, my GoPro, I was still figuring it out at that point. I missed all of that. But here he is, Mr. Josh Parrish, discussing his glide bait technique.
It's mostly wrist for me, but you know, slow cruise along and then you're gonna go. And I mean, you can kind of watch what the bait does.
You're popping the slack out, right, of the line?
Really, you're getting the bait to do super erratic motion, and so also there's another portion of that is you're gonna do that hard pop and immediately go back into your slow roll so that it doesn't foul. But 90% of your bites are gonna come on that pop. So they're going to get out, they're going to start following it, you're going to go pop, and then they're going to try to rip the rod out of your hand. And then like that, as soon as you do the pop, you just go right, you know, so you'll go pop, and then just right back into slow rolling. And then as the day goes on, hopefully we'll start seeing a lot of followers, and then hopefully in between us and about 10, 15 feet, that'll be when we start trying to talk them into eating them. And now we're just going to keep following straight out.
So yeah, that's Josh Parrish giving us tips on glide baiting. Unfortunately, like I said, we didn't get a lot of video of us fishing the glide bait that day. But it opened the door to me, other than just watching videos online of, like, you know, Tactical Bass and all these other people doing glide bait. So I ended up going to Fisherman's Warehouse in Sacramento before I left and dropping a few $100s on several baits, swim baits and glide baits. I picked up 2 of the G-Ratt Sneaky Petes on the recommendation of my good buddy Chuck Ragan, who's a guide out there, but also is a musician here from Gainesville in hot water music, also in his solo career as Chuck Ragan. Picked up some Huddlestons just because I had to. A couple S-wavers in a couple different sizes, and 1 or 2 other odds and ends. It was just great to go into a tackle shop and see them all in person before I actually bought them. Brought them back here to Florida, and I just never really dedicated the time that it takes to fish these baits successfully. But I did start carrying a rod around, and I did buy a rod and a reel. I repurposed an old reel, which I'll get to later. And I kept it in the boat often. Often didn't use it. But one day, Captain Mikey and I, aka Sawgrassbassin here on YouTube, went to one of my favorite spots, Rainbow River, which is actually where Mikey and I filmed our first video together. And it is ultra clear, crystal clear, spring-fed river. And I grew up finesse fishing this river, ultra light, sight fishing for giant bass, 6-pound fluoro. So my whole mindset was always smaller, the better. Small worms, small jigs, small flukes, that kind of thing. And I caught 8+ pound bass out there on that. But this one day, Mikey's throwing a Ned rig, another finesse bait that does really well out there. And he catches a little bass, and this is what happens. Check it out. Ned rig.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
I saw it. I saw that.
He tried to eat him.
I saw that.
Where'd he go?
I don't know. Just down there. He was in the rocks. I've seen him do that to sunfish out here. I've never seen him do it to another bass. I was just about to put on a bass or a glide bait and try it. Maybe I should. Oh, you see that? Yeah, one of them nipped at it. So yeah, it's kind of hard to see in that video. I tried to slow it down and highlight it, but that was over 5-pound bass. I'd say more in the 6-pounder, grabbing Mikey's 1-ish pound bass by the head. Actually had it for a second. And we both watched it happen, and it was crazy. And I just said in the video, you can hear me say, like, oh, let me pick up this glide bait I've been thinking about throwing. So I pick up my S-Waver. At that point is the one I had with me in bass pattern. And the Irma Glide Fluke also I had. And I just started messing around with the two of them. And you can see all the followers I got instantly. And so that kind of lit the match of like, maybe I should take this more seriously. It's ultra clear water. That's supposedly where glide baits work well. It's super heavily vegetated, but because it's so clear, you can tell when you need to crank it to keep it out of the grass. So yeah, I ended up coming back with Mikey with even more glide baits and swim baits. Even picked up a couple that look like a bass just in case. And started throwing them around, and I get some action on it. Here you go. Check out this the second trip with Mikey, and a similar thing happens. That's a good one. Huh? I see it. See it. Where is it?
See him? He just swam out there. He's over there. That's crazy, dude.
Was he trying to eat the fish or eat what was in his mouth?
No, he's trying to eat the fish. Yeah, but we have to see one sitting on a barrel to slow down.
But yeah, oh, for sure. Ooh, see, that he let go. That was a big one.
Yeah, it looked good.
He grabbed it. Oh man! But you saw that?
Yeah, I saw him. Yeah.
That big black shape. Just grab it. Got one on the big bait. Got one.
Good one?
Yeah. Not as big as yours, but not bad. I knew someone would bite it. Got that camera? Or you?
Oh, you want me to get it?
It's all right. It doesn't matter. That's not a bad fish, though. Look at that.
No, not at all.
You can get a photo of me.
Use your phone or mine.
Yours is fine. Turn around. So yeah, that day, immediately after Mikey's bass got attacked by a bass, I got a bite on this Pistol Pete, the smaller G-Ratt bait. It was a big bass. He nipped at it. We could both see it. You can't really see it in the video, but it got my juices flowing on the whole glide bait thing on this river. So I pretty much picked up my big rod and started throwing just the Sneaky Pete, the bigger size one, which is actually in the AU style color, the goldish color, which I unfortunately have lost since then, so I can't show it to you. But it's basically just like this one, the 7.5-inch Sneaky Pete glide bait. And I threw a bunch of other ones. I threw the S-Waver, I threw some of the 6 Sense ones. This bait, though, had by far the biggest draw and the most strikes. I mean, it was not even comparable. As you can see, I ended up catching one under that tree. And that was the first time that I successfully planned and caught a glidebait bass here in Florida. And it was awesome. So this spring, I was also preparing for Atypical Outdoors' yearly visit down here from Georgia to visit and fish for big bass. And I had told him about my glidebait fishing on Rainbow River, and so it was going to be a thing. So I took a couple trips down there before he got here just to scout out, learn a little bit more, and, you know, fish some glidebaits. Why not, right? So here I am with my friend Jenny, a little birthday gift for her to take her out on the river, and I did pretty well. Messages I got. Are we exchanged?
I mean, that's insane, Ted. Ted.
Yeah. Oh, there, look at that, on the big bait.
Oh, look at that. Oh my God.
He just smashed it. I watched him do it. That's awesome.
Ted. He's enormous.
That's like a 3-pounder.
Okay, I'm gonna take a picture of you.
He just came up and smashed that
Fucking
thing.
attacked it. It's so, you're like right in the midst of the sun.
Those hooks got him though. All right, buddy.
Got him.
I got another one.
Oh my God.
This thing works. This one's even smaller. He's still fat. Get a picture of that mouth. Here, I gotta stop him spinning.
That is huge. That is huge.
So my friend from Georgia is coming down at the end of the month, specifically for 2 days, and one of the days is specifically to do what I'm doing. And that's why I'm trying to figure this out before he gets here. But he's gonna be stoked. So yeah, I started doing pretty well, throwing the glide bait on Rainbow. Caught a couple fish, started catching fish every trip actually. There was 1 or 2 trips that I didn't get tape of where I was just by myself. Nothing big, you know, maybe 4 pounds the biggest, a lot of 2s and 3s. But you know, the fact that a 2-pounder eats a 7.5-inch bait is, you know, people say that all the time, but until you see it and experience yourself, putting the time to get there, it's kind of hard to put your head around it. I did get a lot of huge followers, even a couple strikes from big ones, but it always amazes me how a fish can hit bait with big old treble hooks and miss all the hooks, but they sure can. So this led into Atypical's yearly trip down to Florida. He was coming down. We were going to do 1 day at Rodman Reservoir, which was on drawdown at the time, which is just an incredible experience. It's totally different, punching and schools of bass. Atypical has a really great video on his channel about our trip, about his first time really punching. You should check that out. But yeah, second day, it was all about glide baits, Rainbow River. It was like the big day of the whole trip for him. And on the way down, we had a bit of mishap. We had to switch vehicles. My old van over there kind of was overheating and didn't want to push it, so we went back and got his truck. But in doing so, we loaded all the rods and all the tackle onto my boat. And about 20 minutes into the drive, I looked back, and where Eric's rod should have been, I just saw my rod straps flapping in the wind. And 5 of his rods went over the edge of the boat onto the road, and most of them were destroyed. We were able to salvage one. It was a tear-jerking experience for both of us, but we rallied. I rigged one of my extra rods up for him, And we went out, and it was a mission to fish big baits. And he brought a couple of his really big baits, and which you can see him fish here in this video. And yeah, you can actually watch a little bit of his version of this video on his channel as well, and he talks a little bit more about losing the rods. But here you go, check this out. They're going to there's a bunch of bass around us that we don't see.
You said it's gonna tell us?
I just know that they are around, because I've swam around here, and like you see them when you start
Swimming?
mm-hmm. Yeah, and that one's got the clip on it, so you can switch between baits
Quickly.
Yeah, here's your big bait when you want it.
That thing is massive.
So you got your 2 lines.
Mm-hmm.
You ready? You lay them over each other like you would any time you're going to tie 2 lines together.
Mm-hmm.
So I pinch it, and you're going to wrap it 9 times.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you can, if it's really heavy line, I'll do less, just because the knot won't cinch up. But you, for some reason, you always want to do an odd number. No, I've never figured out why.
Yeah.
But so I'll just go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9.
And then you want to bring it back through the joining of the 2 lines like that, and hold it. So I always do the braid first because it's limp,
Okay.
and it's hard to push it through an eye.
Mm-hmm.
The mono or floater is usually stiffer.
Okay.
So then you do the same thing. I got it, and I just turned it around in my hand, and I'm holding the line. Yeah, and I'll do it 9 times this way.
1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9.
So I did 9. So what you want to make sure you do is you look at which, no matter how many times you do it, you look at which direction this line's going out.
Mm-hmm.
You just want to go the opposite way, so that they cross.
Okay.
And then I usually just grab out my mouth so that I can lick it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then hold the 2 tag ends. You can hold it with your fingers, but this just works better for me. Get it started,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'll watch it come together.
Mm-hmm.
So if it didn't work, it would come out. It would just
right.
undone.
Yeah.
So it worked.
Got you. Yeah, I would have to look at videos and practice that one. I have to practice up for that.
Can I see those scissors?
Oh yeah.
But it's really simple. Like there's not, you don't have to like line up anything other than, getting the braid and mono through each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I can tie it in the wind now that I know how to do it. Like I don't have to. It's easy to tie on the spot.
Yeah, it's quick.
And a lot of other knots, it's like, oh, you got to do this and cross it, and then I was like, God damn it, I can't do that in the wind and rain and
everything goes killing me.
Oh, look.
Got a follower?
I got a hit from that little bass.
I see him. Yeah.
The bigger of the 2 hit it. That didn't take long.
Was it the first cast?
Yeah. And he totally bit it. He just didn't, he wasn't big enough to like just devour it. Yeah. He's smaller than the bait. I got a bunch of followers on mine right now. Look at all that. There's like, I just had like 5 little tiny bass. It's amazing. But they're just that curious that they're like, what is that thing?
Look at that one.
Yeah. That was a 3-4 pounder.
Yeah.
I just got wrapped up. That's one way. I just had a whole bunch of little followers. And there's just something about that glide that they just can't not come look at. This is where these rocks are where that first bass you saw there attached by that.
Over here. We had some pretty good luck with fishing on the rocks because the other stretch.
Yeah. It's more unpredictable. They're there.
Oh, got him. Got him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's decent fish.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hit that connecting knot. It's stuck.
It'll be fine. Oh, he's side hook. Now.
Hey. Got him on the swim bait. Oh.
He's pissed.
Got one on the swim bait, guys. We grinded today, man. Took about, what, 3 or 4 hours? Not a giant, but hey, I'll take a swim bait fish.
So as you can see, towards the end of the day, I lent Eric one of my Sneaky Petes just because I was getting so many followers. I actually caught a fish, which wasn't on tape as normal. And so that was like our first real glide bait fish of the day. He's getting late. Figure why not? And you saw he caught one. He actually got a massive hit on a big wake bait right at sunset. Too dark to really film, but it was awesome. We didn't land it, but it was also another eye-opening experience that a giant wake bait like that could get bit. But yeah, after that, even Eric's eyes were open to the action of the Sneaky Pete. So, as I said, I've tried a bunch of other glide baits, and I do like and use them still. The S-Wavers, the 6 Sense glide baits. I even am playing around with a couple lure blanks, glide baits that I'm painting myself. The Irma Glide Fluke. But consistently, the more I throw the Sneaky Pete here, even more than the Pistol Pete, I'm just amazed. I've thrown it on other lakes. I've had my rod almost pull out of my hand. I've yet to land a giant on it, but I think it's just a matter of time. It's a very subtle glide. People will call it like a structure glide. It sinks moderately fast, which is good here because our weeds are so thick and high up in the water column that in the clear water I can fish it even in 6 inches of water as long as I can start reeling right away. I throw this bait and other baits in this size on this, which is my 13 fishing swim bait rod. It's an 8-foot heavy. This is the cheaper one. I forget what it's called exactly. I got tape protecting the rod from the hooks, so I can't tell you the name, but I have that paired with my 20-year-old Calcutta 100 with 65-pound braid and an upgraded longer carbon handle, a little more leverage. And I run that with a 20-pound mono leader, about 6 to 8 feet. And this is what I've been using for all my bigger swim baits, even my Huddlestons and my JSJs. I even was throwing this the other day and lost one of my favorite colors to a line break. Snagged my line on a cast and gonna try to go back with a magnet and find it. I also know what's going on my next tackle warehouse order. Looking forward to picking up a few different colors of this as well. Hopefully there'll be another video of me catching a giant bass on this, the Sneaky Pete, or one of my other big glide baits. Thanks for checking it out. Stay tuned for more videos. Check out Sawgrassbassin and Atypical Outdoors. You can see more of the adventures I've had with them. They post a little more regularly than me. So take care. I'm out.